Matthew, how are you feeling today?
First of all, thanks for inviting me.
You're
It's a
welcome.
pleasure. As they say, no day is the same, but for a Monday, I can't complain. It's been a productive day, and I'm excited now to be here for this discussion with you.
Is this your first podcast?
First podcast, yes. Not the first discussion with people, but
Hopefully not.
Exactly.
So just right off the bat, what are you expecting out of this podcast? Out of curiosity.
I'd say a good conversation where we can discuss anything and, in a way, learn from each other.
Perfect. I think that embodies the philosophy of why I started my journey in podcasting. So I'm glad that we are on the same wavelength on that.
Great.
But you're currently running a master's course in creativity and innovation.
Yes.
First of all, what brought you to that to selection of that course?
Okay, so yes, I'm doing a master's in creativity and innovation at the University of Malta. The reason I chose this course over, I was, in between doing an MBA and this. And when you say looking at learning outcomes of such courses, it always boils down to, leadership and management and how you do certain things in a certain way. And I'm a bit of a person that I like to do things in a different way and find opportunities to, in a way, do things differently than the norm. And when you look at a course, a master's in creativity and innovation, it gives you certain tools that in our day-to-day, office work or any job you do, you don't realize that you could do them differently. So it gives you certain tools, certain perspectives, certain thinking techniques that you don't get from, I would say, in any other course or whatever, or studies you would do. So,
Can you
that's
share
interesting.
what you've learned so far, or is it a secret?
No, it's not a secret. It's
Okay.
not a secret.
I'm
And,
glad.
and I hope the institute will hear this and say, then let's use it now. In a way, the Institute of Creativity and Innovation started off by the Bono. Okay.
Okay.
So
The thinking hats,
the
right?
thinking heads. It's not only about the thinking heads, but you look at different ways, let's say different models, different questioning techniques, different perspectives on how you look at things from a different perspective, let's say. So if we're talking about, I don't know, a business, how to start a business, or how to find the name of a business, let's say. Normally you just, do a bit of brainstorming, throw a bit of names there. Maybe I can ask you, how did you get the name of the podcast?
The podcast.
Yes.
Okay. GROWTHSchema.
How did you get to it?
I got to it because do you know about Jean Piaget?
I've heard of it.
He was an educational psychologist back in the early 90s, early 1900s, and he's the founder of the concept of schemas. Basically, he said that a schema or schemata is a group of ideas based on that particular concept. So, for example, we have schemas of food, transportation, for example, anything. So, growth schemas. So, schema is the embodiment of growth. So it encapsulates any aspects of growth. So I threw in my psychological background on that.
Okay. No, I mean, basically, you learn different techniques in this masters. I mean, this is just one of it. But for example, I say blue, and you need to tell me what you think is related to blue to the podcast, for example. And everyone starts throwing in names and adjectives and whatnot, and then you come up with something. But we've done other things. We've done business models. We've done leadership in a creative way. So it gives a different perspective to day-to-day management, I would say.
Okay.
And it brings people from different avenues. So, for example, with me in the masters, there's a lawyer, there's a nurse, there's a doctor. So normally, if you go to an HR course, because I come from the HR background, you meet people from just HR. This gives you a different forum, so you bring in different ideas from different places, different people.
I find it very interesting because, believe it or not, I'm not sure whether you can resonate with this, but I've never dreamt of doing the work of an HR person. So when I finished my master's course in organizational psychology, I thought to myself, the last thing that I want to do is have a job working HR. And before my current position, I worked with an NGO, not an NGO, with a foundation where my job was to help people with disabilities get into employment. And so I've met with a lot of HR people. And what I saw when I went into most companies are people sitting behind the desk. And I certainly didn't want to do that as my full-time employment. So I thought to myself, I don't want to end up in that situation. I want to create something. I want to build something. I enjoy building stuff. And to me, having the possibility nowadays of doing just that, I think it's a breath of fresh air. Not because my superiors within with the audience, but I can say that with confidence, because that what drives me. So I appreciate you coming from the background that saying that putting creativity and innovation in the mix is changing the status quo in a way that you can do something differently.
So if you mentioned something sitting behind a desk, that's something I don't do. And I mean, if you go to my office, it's pretty much always empty. I sit there for an hour in the morning and then I'm out with people because I believe that HR is for the people and not just, sitting behind a desk and trying to come up with ideas or training or whatever. So that is one thing I don't do. I mean, I started my career outside of HR as well. I mean, I studied banking initially and used to work for a bank, both in Malta and abroad. And then I said, I don't want to do this anymore and I prefer to do HR related tasks.
Why did you want to do it anymore?
Well, I would say banking at that time, so I'm talking 15 years ago, was more about trying to get people to take more loans, take more credit cards.
Still is today.
Yes, but I think at the time was, and then, I mean, it was very pushy, as in, and when you start seeing people going into more debt, into more debt, into more debt, and solving a problem by giving them more loans, I didn't like it. So, and then at that time where I worked, I was also getting involved in HR as well, so training more than HR. And I said, I think this is more my line, and started moving into HR.
What intrigued you in the first place?
I think the opportunity to work closer to people and seeing them move from one step to another, so seeing them grow. In fact, I would say wouldn't call it a motto, but the reason I'm in HR is because of the people. If there's no people, you don't need HR. So if I work in a hotel, if there's no waiters, if there's no receptionists, then they don't need HR. So there is a real reason why HR is needed to an extent. And it's not the old school HR where you're there just to, do a contract of employment and make sure that people are coming in on time. And I mean, I leave that for the managers to actually do it. It's not an HR job to make sure that your people are coming on time. So from the point of view of why HR, I think that's the main reason, is to be closer to people. As I went along, as I've been in HR for, 12, 13 years, I now understand more how HR could be part of the growth of a company, part of the corporate structure, let's say, more of the strategic side of things rather than the day-to-day HR, let's say, management. I mean, that's still important, but I like to work on things now which will take us to the next level. We'll understand a bit better of how we can simplify certain processes that people are currently doing to be more efficient. And I get that from my time in manufacturing. So I started HR in manufacturing. And we always talk about, how we can simplify things, how we can move certain machines closer to each other to try and, make them work with one operator rather than two. And that got me thinking of, simplicity and certain ways of looking at doing things from the perspective of the business, not from the perspective of HR. In fact, sometimes I get labels that I'm more of a, on the side of the company than the side of HR.
I think it happens to most stage. At some
Yes.
point in time, it
Yes.
happens. But I'm curious because this question comes to mind when I'm having an HR related discussion.
Exactly.
Do you think that which comes first, the people or the business?
I would say both, as in the business can't be there without the people, and the people will not have a job without the business. So we need to, on the business side of things, really explain and ensure that what we're doing is still fair, is still going to give benefit to the people that are coming into work. But on the side of the people is more about, understand how you are actually adding value to the business and not just coming to work for 8 hours and go home. And that's when you start having the discussions, I should be paid more. Yes, you will be paid fairly, paid more if you give more. Fairly for within the within the business and fairly within the, let's say, the structures of the organization. I agree 100%. No one should be paid sort of low salaries unless it's required. But then paid more vis-a-vis giving more value, then I agree 100%.
Because there is always that debate that when it comes to performance, so when it comes to performance management, there is always that debate that you're paid according to what you're doing. So if you exceed that performance, you get the performance bonus. So from what I'm hearing is that you only get the bonus if you perform more. Is that I'm understanding correctly?
If there's a bonus structure,
Yes.
then yes, as in, but then if you perform more, you need to know what you need to perform more. So I've seen cases where people are given bonuses, but they don't have KPIs.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden at the end of the year, they say, oh, well done, you did good, you're getting 200 euros or whatever, you're getting X euros. So no, if there are KPIs and the KPIs are, smart and, achievable to an extent, with achievable if the person is putting a little bit more effort, not achievable if you just do your day-to-day.
Yes.
Because your day-to-day, I think your salary is paying for your day-to-day.
At least it should reflect that.
Exactly. But if you have KPIs that if you are stretched a little bit to put a little bit more in, then yes, you will be rewarded for it. But then there are cases where, yes, there's a performance bonus, but how is performance measured? Do you know what you need to achieve? Do you know the expectations of your manager, the expectations of the company? Sometimes you speak to people and they don't know this, but they have a bonus. So the company is also responsible to, how shall I say it, to really get the value back for that bonus.
I think it boils down to expectation as well, because sometimes we confuse being loyal. So if I'm loyal, or if in my mind I think I'm this much loyal to the company, then my pay should reflect that. So we not misuse but misjudge loyalty, expectation, and our pay at the end of the month. So we expect to be rewarded monetary or from a remuneration point of view because we are loyal, because we go out of our way. And I think there is pleasure. I mean, we go to work to earn money.
Exactly.
It's not voluntary. There are avenues where you can do voluntary work, but I think there is some joy into stepping a little bit outside of your normal routine and doing that something extra, which you believe will set you in the right trajectory, and it will benefit you and perhaps your team or the company, but you don't expect anything in return. You just do it because what you bring to the table automatically.
Definitely. And I will ask you one question before I answer.
Sure.
Define loyalty to me.
I recently listened to something about loyalty. I think Simon Sinek mentioned this.
Okay.
I wouldn't try to recite it again, but to me, loyalty is when you um, you put your own feelings aside and you trust that the company or the person who is above you, you're trusting in their judgment. So you're loyal because you believe in the system or the agenda, for a lack of a better term, that the person or the people in the management are pushing towards.
And that I agree with. But then you see loyalty. People tell you, oh, I'm loyal, I've been here 20 years. And these people would be part of the furniture, literally. Like if you change the desk, they're like, no. So,
I don't see that as loyalty.
but people,
100%.
yes, and I agree with you. But, and I think this is a culture of Malta mainly.
Yes,
When
yes,
you
yeah.
see people that are still doing the same job they did 20 years ago because they think they are loyal, but then the moment you try and change something in their day-to-day, they'll be the first person complaining, then that is something which is a detractor, no? As in
Yes,
when you
yes.
try and move something and they're not willing to actually change. On the other hand, I actually forgot the question you asked me now. Why am I asking you the question?
Did I ask a question?
Maybe
So-
you did, maybe you didn't. I don't know.
Not sure. So, where were we? We discussed. You managed to confuse me.
Is it the first time?
It doesn't. It rarely happens.
It
It
rarely
rarely
happens,
happens, to
okay.
be honest, because we're going back and forth. Something
Exactly.
that something that I appreciate. There.
Uh-huh.
I think we started off with discussing about. So you asked me about loyalty, and then
I think it was more performance bonus,
yes,
performance related.
the expectation. Yes, that's what
The
I was.
expectation.
It's the expectation that people make. And you asked me about loyalty, and something that I wanted to add, but based on what you said, is that um, the reason. So there is a reason why you stayed for 20 years within that same company. That can be because you're paid well, because there was career growth, but something fulfilled your need to it. There was a need that was fulfilling. Either you were not comfortable with change, you were resistant to it, you were afraid perhaps, you perhaps felt that it's more
They do it out of
beneficial.
comfort as
Yeah,
well.
the
People do
comfort
it out
zone.
of
Yes,
comfort, you know.
definitely.
I'm happy and I will not move.
I think no one stays, or very few people stay with a company because they're super loyal
No.
to the out of self-interest. You know, I think there needs to be something that the person gains out of it,
Of course.
without them even realizing, perhaps.
Of course, and you see people. I mean, I have colleagues of mine that work in the same company I do at the moment. That's been in the company for 20, 25 years. But when you see what these people achieved over the years, is impressive. And I mean, they are now in, top positions. But they worked. They were their way up. They were patient. They took the opportunity to learn. They went out of their comfort zone. They, suffered a bit to an extent, as in they had to put in the hours and work hard. But you see them today; they're senior people in the organization,
Definitely.
and are planning the way forward for hundreds of other colleagues through the experience they gained over the years. So, and those people are vital for an organization, in any organization. People that can recount their stories, they can go back and say, I know what I'm telling you because I did that myself. And if you do it this way, you will go to the next level. And unfortunately, on the other hand, because we have people who are less patient to actually build their own career, we find people that are trying to infiltrate into an organization, trying to become leaders of any organization without the background required to be at that level. And people may not appreciate it. Something as simple as, I don't know, I'll give you a basic example. Someone who wants to become, let's say, a restaurant manager becomes a restaurant manager because at the moment the workforce is lacking, restaurant manager, but then goes and works in a restaurant with waiters that have been waiters for the last 10, 15 years. And unless you're doing something to gain their respect, then
Trust, I would say.
and trust
Trust
as well.
is trust
And
is
trust as well.
trust takes a lot of time, and so does respect. So I think spending the time to gain trust, to get to know the people that you're working with, comes before trying to change something.
Exactly.
Because for any change that to happen, you need to have the people with you. If you don't, nothing will happen. So unfortunately.
And I say it this way, maybe through my own experience. I mean, I started working full time just out of sixth form, so I didn't go to university first. I started working, and I did it because at the time I had an opportunity and I saw the money and I said, okay, I'll stop studying and I go and work. But then I worked my way up, and then I said, okay, I think now I need to do some education, some studying, and that gave me a bit of more understanding of spending time working in entry-level positions, in positions where nowadays, and maybe this is also the mentality of the youngsters of today, nowadays, if you have a degree, you expect to go into a company and you're a manager, or, in my time, I'm not old, but in my time, and I know when you start seeing the people today, oh, I'm 20, okay.
All right.
Okay, I'm old, I think. They expect to come in and yes, I studied for 5 years, I have a degree and this, and have good marks. But yes, I mean,
Unfortunately, that is not enough.
be patient.
It's
Come
not
in.
enough. Sorry, I'm
Be patient. Come in at this position. Prove yourself. And I'm telling you, in 18 months, you will be there. But, start and do it as you go along. And I think we're losing that a little bit.
The
nowadays.
patience, I think. It's the patience.
Patience, more money in hand.
Yes,
Life in itself tells you that you can become someone really
Yes.
big in a few months or weeks or days. But the reality is not that.
No, unfortunately,
the reality
no.
is not that.
And I think it takes a little bit of time to link the theory with the practice.
Exactly.
Because with whichever academic body you go through, you will always be exposed to the grand majority. I would say 80%. It's theory. There's nothing wrong with theory, but the skill relies in the ability of you making the connection with the theory to practice.
Exactly.
And that takes time because you need to try trial by error.
Exactly.
So you need to go through that process over and over again, and you might have an idea that in textbook might work brilliantly, but when you go in practice, it might not work as you initially thought.
No, and one of the things I'd say to everyone, you need to fail a couple of times to actually go to the next level or do something different, and then people don't get it, and I tell them, there's nothing wrong if you go home after a day of work and you feel you failed. There's nothing wrong if sometimes you need to cry. There's nothing wrong if sometimes you need to lock yourself in a room and not speak to anyone.
Has ever one of your colleagues cried in your presence?
Yes.
How did you react?
Depends on the situation, let's say. No, if I have to tell a joke, one time I had someone crying, I just gave them a packet of tissues and I said, when you stop crying, I'll come back, because it was on a silly thing. But no, people have emotions and you need to be able to, especially in HR, you need to be able to comfort the person and really understand. Because the cry, it could be someone cries, could be someone slams a door, it could be someone just walks out. It's just the way a person reacts. But I think we, as leaders, as managers, whatever situation we are, we need to be able to take a step back, let them, come to their real self and understand what made them react that way and move on. Most of the time, and I believe if a person is willing to improve, a person is committed to whatever their task is, most of the time they'll come out of it, and they'll come out, after failing a couple of times, they'll come out of it and they will look back and say, thank God I failed, because now I I've achieved what I wanted to achieve.
It's important to have people who you can lean on. So it's good to
Yes.
have a good support system and
Yes.
perhaps mentorship
Yes.
along the way.
Exactly.
Because if you don't have that, you can easily not crumble, but you don't find a way up in a
Definitely.
way. Because you need someone who can help you continue move forward.
Definitely. And if I had to, picking on this, if I had to pick on one thing I've always done and I still do till this day, whenever I either change a job or move into a new setting, I always identify 2 or 3 people in the organization, not necessarily my boss or someone in my team, that I'm gonna, as much as possible, look at how they react, look at how they act, look at what they do, because I want to learn. And this is how I find the way of learning.
What makes these individuals different than the rest? How do you identify them, basically?
I think it's just the way they present themselves, the way they interact in meetings, their background, their career growth. And I mean, I won't mention names, but I feel that through these people, more than anything else, studying and your own experience, and through their failures, because then you become close to them and they say, ah, yes, I did that, but it didn't work. Then I will not do it, or I will try it in a different way. Through these people, you can always get to the next level, I would say, more prepared, more efficient as well, because learning from others for me is the most important thing anyone can do. So move the books aside, move anything aside, and try and learn from someone who's done it or is doing it or has helped others do it, and get as much as you can out of them. A bit of like a sponge and absorb as much
Keeping
as you
yourself in a curious state.
Yes. In fact, I mean, in my current job that I've been in for a year and 2 months, so the hospitality industry was completely new to me. I mean, never dreamt of actually working in the industry until it happened. But you will find me everywhere in the hotel, because I want to learn what the engineer is doing, because for me it's completely new, and to understand how a guest relations manager is dealing with guests, how anyone. I mean, I remember the first 2 weeks of my job starting last summer. We had opened a new restaurant, and my area GM said, I think we might have a little bit of an issue there, and try and see how to solve it. And I never carried a tray. I mean, the only time I go to a restaurant is to eat. But I said, okay, what can I do? I'm just going to place myself in that restaurant for the next 3 evenings, because it was an evening restaurant. And if I spot anything, I will, try and
report back.
And it actually worked. I mean, it was, and funnily enough, it was things that I know. It was lack of communication between the kitchen and the restaurant. We had one person working in the restaurant who did not have perfect English, so the guests were not understanding what he was saying. And I've never worked in a restaurant, but the basic things of communication, teamwork, have an organized area. It is something that you need to do in pretty much every job, every industry, even at home. And I'm not organized at home, so don't ask me about that, because my wife will see this and she will not be happy.
You will be judged.
Exactly.
But going back a little bit on a previous note that we did mention earlier on today, you've changed a couple of jobs,
Yes.
Which is natural in one's career. What do you look out for in your employment, in terms what does fulfill you, and what are the signs that you look out for?
So after having worked in London for 3 years for a bank, coming back to Malta for me was a bit difficult, in the sense that I was used to already. I mean, when 15 years ago in Malta, the workforce was predominantly Maltese, predominantly, English, Maltese speaking, or I was already used to working in a multicultural city, country, whatever. I mean, out of 40 people, I was the only white person working in London in the bank. So I had, all nationalities, all races. which I was already accustomed to. Then, so coming to Malta and initially working for, let's say, a smaller organization, predominantly Maltese, with a Maltese culture only, was a bit slow for me. As in, I'm a bit, I like to do things differently. I like to have discussions, not this is the way we do it, go and do it. So that was a little bit difficult for me. And then I realized that I needed to work in organizations which are multinational, so bigger organizations where, you communicate with people outside of Malta, you get ideas, you share ideas, you go and visit them, they come and visit you. It gives you a bit of a different perspective than working in a small, maybe family-owned company in Malta, where you don't have much of a say, you're not involved. If it's not broken, let's not fix it, let's not change anything, because we've done it for the last 10 years and it's working. So I'm always looking for that place where I can challenge, where I can be innovative, where I can say something and I'm not judged. Because, no, you're like, people in my current industry could easily say, oh, you've never been in a hotel, you don't know what, as in, you don't know anything about hotels.
And did you receive that feedback? Recently?
Initially, yes, but then, and also with the support of my boss and sort of the senior team in the company, they actually explained why they got me outside of the industry, because they wanted new blood, new perspectives, new ideas. And this is what I believe in, as in, titles are there and titles give you responsibilities, but ultimately at the table, anyone can add value, anyone can give an idea of how things could work. Again, I'll speak about, I don't know, talking about hotels again, make it easier for me. I do my bed at home sometimes, but I can never ask a housekeeping attendant, I can never ask. I can never really tell a housekeeping attendant how to do a bed in a few seconds, because they are the people. So if we're designing a room, why not get someone from housekeeping to tell you, yes, but if you put the bedside table a bit on the side, we can clean the room better. We can. Most of the people will say, oh no, that's just a housekeeping attendant. She doesn't know anything, or he doesn't know anything about. But no, I think everyone should be involved. Ultimately, there are people to take the final decision.
Yes, for sure.
But why not let people give you the input on how things could change, or ideas, or So I'm a firm believer of involving as much people as possibly can, because obviously at some point you need to say, listen, okay, I've listened, I've taken as much as I can on board, but now it's time to take things to the senior team and take a decision. But get as much input as you can. Because you're not the person on the floor, you're not the person doing that bed, you're not the person cooking in that kitchen or anything else. So have people with you.
Why do you think people resist that kind of approach?
Which as in management or
most probably management, because they are resisting the involvement of people.
I think because they think they know it all, in my opinion. And luckily enough, I don't work in an organization like that, but I've done in the past. And you realize that after a while, you're still going to fail, because ultimately we need to achieve what we need is through our people. So if I'm going to do something without involving them and then expecting them to do it without getting any feedback, it might turn out to be a waste of time, waste of money, waste of energy.
Sometimes I encounter, besides what you said, two other aspects to that, because I also agree with your point that the more people you get involved in a project, the better the results are likely to be.
Exactly.
And the resistance, apart from what you said, is that it might be too time consuming and we need to do things as quickly as possible, which might be valid, but some things can wait a little bit.
And let's say as it is, as in, there are decisions and there are decisions. So,
yeah, for sure.
If it's something that is, going to cost money and needs to be done now, and there's enough experienced people, knowledgeable people to take the decision, then you just do it. But if it's going to be something, especially if it's going to impact the lives of your colleagues, no, as in, if I don't know, if we want to build a new store and all the shelves are 3 meters high and the person needs to go on a ladder every time, it's going to waste his time,
Yeah.
health-wise, and many other
Risk
things.
and a risk as
Risk
well.
and so why? I mean, in cases like that, then you involve the people. But if it's a decision where you feel competent, you have the right authority to take it without involving anyone, and it's not going to impact the day-to-day life of someone, then you just take it.
I mean, you just said you mentioned the stores. You add 2 tablets so that everyone can have their own tablet, for example. That's a no-brainer. You don't need to consult people. So if
Exactly.
it's facilitating, makes things faster.
Life easier and
Yes.
everything else, and that's fine.
You
Then
get it.
people are going to love you for that.
For sure. For sure. For sure. So that's a no-brainer.
Exactly.
And another thing that I wanted to highlight in this is that people might feel exposed. People might feel exposed that someone else will outsmart them because they might come out with a better idea than theirs. So it becomes a bit of an ego
Exactly.
issue. And some people try to avoid that because they might not be that confident that their idea is absolute.
But that's when, I mean, you would normally never go down the route of Isma. Sorry, I spoke Maltese.
It's okay.
Uh,
One slip up, it's okay.
okay, it's okay. 3 strikes?
Yes.
3 strikes,
No,
okay.
yellow card now.
Yellow card, yellow card. So you need to set the scene. You can't expect someone to first time, walking in, come to this meeting and give us your ideas if they've never done it before. So I always believe in creating an environment, creating a culture where, again, everyone is equal ultimately, as in, like, I will go into the canteen and sit next to anyone to eat. I will not sit alone because I'm the director of HR, or sit with the director of finance. I mean, if he's there, we sit. But if I'm alone, I will not go and sit alone. I will go and sit next to anyone and have a discussion with them. I will. Fortunately, I don't smoke, but sometimes I need to go to the smoking area
Yes.
to speak to people,
Because that's where the discussions
to
happen.
make them feel comfortable, to make them understand that you are a human being like them, you do mistakes like them, but you want to listen and learn from them. So, you can't get someone to the table on day one and expect to get an output, an input, or whatever, an output, an input. But you need to build up to it. You need to be close to the people. You need to go around and speak to people, ask them questions. How can we do this better? What is your opinion? And then they start coming to you and telling you, last time we spoke, what if we do it this way? What if we do it that way? And ideas start coming in. And, idea generation, when there's a lot of people who are, you said loyal, I was going to say loyal, but people who are engaged, that's the word.
Yeah.
People who are engaged will start coming automatic. But you need to build up to it. You can't just expect it from day one.
No, for sure. And you build up to it by doing the groundwork that you're mentioning. It's spending time and with intent. It's spending time with intent. So, for example, the canteen. We go into the canteen instead of going on your own. You work in HR. You might be fed up of hearing people's stories, but you dive right into it and having a discussion again.
But again, without the people, I will not have a job. So I need to be there.
Yes,
that is how I believe in.
Agreed. You need to have the courage and the will to do the groundwork and the curiosity. From what you've mentioned, it's the curiosity to do the groundwork and to get to know people.
And asking the stupid questions, as in, we don't know everything, and asking questions which in reality you don't know, but people look up to you and they're, how do you not know this? Because I don't know it, as in, and I ask, I still till today I ask questions about hotels, of how do we book rooms and make sure there's no overbooking. You should know this. You're a manager. You're a me. No, I don't know it. I mean, tell me the process. Explain to me what you do to ensure this does not happen. As in.
Because we might assume that it's the system, it's the software that we use, but it might not be as simple as that.
Exactly. No, it could be many other things. As in, but someone once told me, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So if I don't know, I will ask you.
Fair point. Matthew, outside your professional involvement, you're very active in sports, football
Yes.
specifically.
Yes.
How these two come together? I'm not an avid follower of football, unfortunately, so I can't entertain much in this realm.
Okay.
But how can you bring these two together?
So I've been involved in sports for, I mean, since I've been probably able to walk. As in, I enjoy sports. I know it doesn't look in me, but there were better times. So no, so sports wise, I used to play handball first.
Okay.
And I played handball for many years, and also played for Malta and the national team. When I was living in London, I was playing also handball in England. So sports has always been a part of me, as in I find that sports is the only thing that breaks the routine kind of. Then I got involved in football, so I was doing some voluntary work in football clubs, and now most recently I am the team manager for the Malta under 21 national team. So the role of a team manager is pretty much being the HR manager again of the team. But it's a little bit of the coordinator between the coaching staff and the players. It involves a lot of traveling, so there's a
That's
lot
good, I guess.
that is the one of the problems of trying to merge my work with football, but it involves a lot of traveling, so there's a lot of coordination to be done because we play home and away games, and
Okay.
I mean they are set. There's always the FIFA international window, and you know exactly when they're happening. But no, I mean I think it merges what I like doing, because obviously there's people involved. Again, there's different characters, there's different setups. There's you know, again you'd be dealing with one coach who leads in a way, you'd be dealing with someone else who leads in a different way. So you need to be a little bit, the balancing act between many things happening. Um, Again, it gives you the opportunity to travel and experience higher level of professionality. I mean, most recently we played Malta against Belgium in Belgium, and when you see that you're playing with football teams or football nations which are of a higher level than us, I mean, again, it goes back to the learning.
How do you get the team ready for such an event?
From my end, it's not the technical and physical ability. So
Definitely. I'm not
that's the
asking.
from my end. It's more the planning of, for example, under 21
Logistics.
logistics, but also under 21 players are students. They're at university, so you need to see what exams they're going to clash with their travels, preparing letters and speaking to university to excuse them for exams. And and in Malta, probably everywhere else in the world, but you get students which prefer to do their resit in September to be able to play for Malta during the exam season.
Okay.
So and you're dealing with I mean under 21s, they're I mean adults but still studying or still having their first experiences in employment, because let's face it, in Malta, even though players are paid, they're not going to make a living out of football. So they still need to work, they still need to find other ways of be financially independent.
Definitely.
But no, I mean it's also it's also an interesting place to be. I mean I find it. I mean if you tell me what your hobbies are, I would say sports. I would say I don't watch television. I only watch television if there's a football game or there's the Olympics or there's any sports, tennis, whatever. So don't ask me to sit in front of Netflix and watch a series. I'll probably sleep after the first 15 minutes. But then if there's a nice tennis game or there's a nice
You're
basketball,
engaged with that.
I'll sit down and I'll watch it. And that would be my way of relaxing after a day. I mean, otherwise I will not switch on the television.
What the so you're a player yourself. What did sport give you in terms that what edge did sports give you?
I think the first thing, something that you mentioned earlier, in a team sport, if you don't trust your colleagues or your teammates, you're not going to achieve anything. So I would say sports gave me that thing that, and especially I mean, in handball, so that is the sports I played. In handball, you defend like six on a line. If you don't trust the person on one side or the other that they're going to do the right move, then you might as well just go and sit down because it's such a fast game that if you don't trust that he's going to do the right move next, then you can't do it alone. So trust is the one thing, and I think I mean it's a bit of a cliche, but teamwork, as in yes, you're in a team sport, so working together, but it's not just let's say in handball the 60 minutes you spend on the court. I mean the time in the dressing room, the time before. I mean, up until today, my bestest of friends are the guys that I played handball with 10, 15 years ago. As in, and
Because you go through a lot when you work in a team. And in that
Exactly,
situation, you
and
go through a lot.
you train every other day. When you lose together, you win together, but you also build a community in a way. As in, I mean, you end up going out together, and you build a family outside of your normal family.
Yes,
Because
yes.
again, it's you might say some people say you can do that at work. I think it's a little bit different. As in, at work, yes, you build teamwork, you build a community where you need to work well together, collaborate together. But I think then what you do in sports is a little bit can touch a little bit the personal aspect of yours. I mean, if you're especially in a team, if I mean you're defending together, you're how shall I say it? I mean, at work you get disappointment sometimes, but in sports, if you lose a game when you've been, you know, training so hard for it, especially in handball, it's an amateur sport, so you don't get paid. You don't get. I mean, you pretty much pay to be there,
Yes.
pay to go abroad with the team. If you lose when you've done so much together, I think you didn't. I mean, it gets you closer.
I think you come face to face. And it's true. I don't think we sometimes get closer to this. What I'm going to say, and at work, you become very close with, even if you did your best. Sometimes you lose still. Sometimes your best is not enough.
Exactly. And I mean to compare it with work. If at work you don't meet a deadline, you don't reach a target, whatever.
The show goes on in a way.
Exactly, the show goes on, and you pretty much say, okay, as in I didn't do it. I'm gonna try something different next time, or I'm gonna work for it differently the next time around. In a handball game, because there's and also an element of emotions as well, and that builds up during the game. Certain episodes in the game where the referee might have done something, your teammate did a mistake, but you made up for it. Someone hit someone because it's a very physical game. I've given my few hits as well. So
You're a big guy.
and
I'm sure you did.
Honestly, and maybe some people will see this that played handball against me. I was the guy that would hit you on court, but then go and have a beer with you after the game. But if I want to hit you on court, I will hit you. You could be my best friend. I will hit you. No, but the emotions in it, at the end of it, gives you more than I think any work environment can give you.
I agree with that.
In fact, I have two kids, and my daughter really likes gymnastics, which she's really good at. But I'm pushing her, and she's now doing basketball as well to get that feeling of a team sport. Because gymnastics is good, and it gives you a lot of strength and whatnot, but it does not give you what walking into a dressing room with your teammates before a game and then after a game, and they could be two different scenarios. You walk in, everyone's happy, you joke, and you walk in after a game and you lost, but you're still friends. You still need to pick up yourself to go to the next game next week. You don't get that in any other environment.
No,
in my opinion.
Yes,
Of course.
I agree. And I appreciate that you're mentioning that the distinctiveness of individual sports and team sports, they both give you something which is unique,
Exactly.
but diverse.
Yes, because then what you notice in individual sports, I've never done it myself, but I read books and then, follow individual sports players. Then these people are more resilient, these people are more
Self-reliance.
self-reliant, they are they're capable of taking more risks because if you're alone, I'm either going to do it or not do it.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I think it gives you different abilities as well, different perspectives of how to do things. But I think everyone should somewhere in some way, shape, or form be involved in a sports, in my opinion.
I agree.
Or I know you like scouts, or
I do.
probably scouts.
Yes, Scouts for sure.
Just to be on your good
Yes,
books.
thank you. And we do have our physical stuff at Scouts as
Yes.
well. So
But there's also the element of teamwork.
definitely, definitely. There is a whole system and philosophy behind
And
that.
badges and
Yes.
it's a bit of a
No, but I did both. I did both. I
Exactly.
did both sports
Right.
and Scouts. So I see the benefit in both.
yes, definitely.
But it's something that you've touched upon, and I'm glad you did before I asked you, is the concept of family. In the past, I've had conversations mainly revolving around motherhood. But with you, I want to explore the concept of fatherhood. What's your strategy? Because I know you're a strategist of parenting and fatherhood.
But, what I'm going to say now might kill me in the future, but
This is a testament.
exactly. No, in my opinion, I think it's finding a balance. And I mean, let's say there's always the role. So both parents are at home. There's the role of someone who is probably the more the soft one and someone who's the more strict. My wife would say I'm the soft one, as in but I mean, my approach with my children are, try something. Don't worry, you might hurt or you might fall, but next time you will learn that you shouldn't have done that. I also try and be the friend in a way, as in try and I don't know, as in I'm trying to think of an example, but I will take my daughter with me to watch a football game, for example. I mean, I would take my son as well, but he's 3, so when he gets a bit older, because I want to show my children that there's more to life than I'm just being your dad. I'm going to show you the way, but I want you to walk it with me in a way.
Okay.
Not. I mean, if I get angry, I get angry. Let's face it. But I like to be that that father figure that where possible I take my daughter with me to work or my son with me to work, because I want to show them that work is not that big thing, that it's something else that you need to do in life, and why not understand what I'm doing if I don't know. I try and involve them in a lot of things.
But besides that, what I'm noticing and hearing is that you're trying to show them different facets about you.
Yes,
Why is that important for you?
because as individuals we need to adapt to any situation that we find ourselves in, I think. So and again, I mentioned my daughter because she does most things with me because she's older. But for that, one example is I took my daughter recently to the office, and a colleague of mine came to ask me to do something for them. And then once this person left my office, she said, "Papa, how is she telling you what to do? I thought you were the boss here." And I'm like, it's not about
Right.
I say what people do. She's my colleague. She's more proficient. She knows that what we were doing more than me. And she gave me an instruction to do something for her, even though she reports to me, as in. So I try to get them involved because, again, I feel that is how I've learned myself. I remember my dad exposing me to things that you wouldn't. My dad's an engineer. I don't know how to do any housework. So that is something that my dad knows a lot, and I still call him now to come and do something for me.
Housework in terms of maintenance, I
Maintenance,
assume.
but also
Not
the
chores.
other housework. I'm not very good at it either. But no, I think I mean, with my children, I try to be that person that will show them the way, but do it with them at the same time, rather than say you need to do this or go and do that. I think they get more out of doing it with you. I know it's a bit of an extra chore sometimes, but
From a philosophical standpoint, I feel that you're humanizing the fatherhood. It can be motherhood, but you're humanizing the role of a father.
Exactly.
So, hey, a father is not someone who is up there, not achieve something which a person who you can't relate to. But
Exactly.
this is relatable because we're doing it together. There's value in that.
and it gives you the I mean, it gives, like, for example, today I called again my kids. Now I'm driving here, and I said I will see you tomorrow morning because they will be asleep when I get home. And my daughter was like, but will you take me out to get the school van? I said, yes, I will. So for them, they try and find every event, and even I try to make every event with them something special. So I mean, because I spend a lot of time at work, in the morning my son goes to nursery with my wife because they're next to each other where she works, and with my daughter I get her dressed, we put the lunchbox and the bag together, and then we go outside and wait for the school transport to pick her up. But for her, that's an event, she looks forward to it, and this is what, 10 minutes maximum, nothing else.
Yeah.
I mean, there are bad days. There are days where I'm not in the mood and I'm like, hey, I'm more ruined. But most of the time, I try and make that 10 minutes something that she can remember. Because if the day is long and I mean, sometimes when you arrive at work, but you don't know when you left. If I get home at 8, my daughter and my son are asleep. So that 10 minutes in the morning is what I'll try and make a memory out of for them. But then the weekend comes and we try and do much more together.
Very inspiring.
And most of the time, the weekends is what my wife says, take the kids out with you so I can clean the house.
Well, it's a fair compromise.
It's a good compromise. I don't mind it. And then I do it with pleasure.
Matthew, I have 2 questions, but before we get it, I wanted to ask you something. Is there... Okay, I will ask again an open-ended question, not a closed-ended question.
Okay. I can't say yes or no.
Yes. What lesson your kids or kid, because your daughter is older, taught you that you were surprised with?
This is someone asked, or
No,
you thought about it?
No, I thought about it. Kind of think of outside the box.
I would say I can probably base it on both my kids, and I think is the mentality that in a way you do whatever you think you want to do, because you will regret it. And I think especially, I mean, my daughter is a bit of the adventurous one, and she will, even if she gets me angry, she will do something, but then she tells me why she did it. It's like, for example, she likes drawing, she likes art, and I will tell her, don't use the paints today because you'd get everywhere dirty. And then by the time I go upstairs, do something, and like 15 minutes later I walk down and I find paint everywhere, and then she will tell me, Papa, look what I drew. And it would be something nice, and she will go and stick it in her room. I'll be angry, but she went against my word, but then she is satisfied with the outcome of her painting. You might say they're naughty, you might say, but for her, she achieved something, and I think that gives me something to think about. And and when I say I want to do something, without breaking the law, I would like to do it. And I think for the children at that age, it gives them the opportunity to be a bit rebellious in a way, but getting something out of it. So don't be rebellious just
for the sake of being rebellious.
Exactly. And I mean, when hopefully she'll never do it, but when she gets a bit older, she'll go out and get drunk just for,
For the sake of it.
I wanted to get drunk. Get something out of it. So that's what they both of them teach me, that they might break the rule, but they're going to get something out of it, a positive outcome.
So you're also breaking the rule by being a bit lenient, but you're getting something out of it as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
I see.
I don't know. There are parents here. I would like to think what they think.
I think I'm not a parent, but I meet with a lot of parents through Scouts. The beauty about parenting is very unique to everyone. So everyone has their own story and everyone has their own take on it.
Exactly.
I don't think, like many things in life, I don't think there is one good way or one bad way, but there are plenty of good ways and plenty of bad ways of how you can be a parent. To each his own, and you can pull that off because you're you. Perhaps I wouldn't be able to do what you do because I'm different. I might do things a little bit different, but that's the beauty of it. Because
And again, it's a trial and error, as in, you try this, and it's characters as well. So my son is 3, my daughter will turn 8 in November. If you had to meet them together, you won't say they're coming from the same family. As in, the characters are completely different. So my son is calm, patient. You'll give him 2 cards and he'll spend half an hour playing with them. My daughter will do 100 things in 2 minutes. So, it's different character. As in, you need to adapt to both. And when you need to do something with them together, with Kay, I need to tell her, now take it easy. We're going to play a game together. And with Sam, I need to tell him, your daughter, your sister is a fighter, so push a bit more. It's
different lessons. Everyone needs something different so that they can break out of their shell. All right, ready for the questions?
Yes.
All right. So we have 2 questions. Okay, there's a question for me, and there's a question for you. So, Daniel, how do you choose the guests to invite?
By their looks.
I think if a person interests me, and not interests me, a person with whom I can have a good conversation with, because I started the podcasting mainly because I did mention this in past podcast episodes, but one of the reasons why I started the podcast was to have good conversations. Unfortunately, we are bound with time and our small networks because we can't meet all the people in the world. So sometimes we're stuck in a good way, I mean it, with a number of good friends that we have, and fortunately and unfortunately we have the same conversations with them. I don't mean it in a bad way, but in order for us to grow, we need to meet new people.
100%.
And my answer to that was podcasting. So I was looking for an avenue where I could have good conversations so that I can grow, I can learn, and perhaps I can inspire or someone who might be the guest we have, because I think in an exchange we both can grow. I might ask you something which I never thought of that, or I was never exposed to that kind of conversation, and we rarely have this kind of exchange even with our friends, where we're sitting behind the bike, behind the camera, and we have no other choice but to have a good conversation.
And in reality, and I'm just thinking now, it's very, very difficult nowadays with busy lives and whatever to find an hour and spend it like this. I mean, I'm actually thinking now I need to do this more often. So I'm going to try and not do my own podcast, but find an hour a week and meet someone and go for a coffee and have a conversation more than how was your day, how was work going.
Yeah.
Like build a set of questions and go
and you can do it with anyone, because formally it's the second time that we're meeting, and we the first time that we met we just shook hands, in reality. But this is the first time that we're having this kind of exchange, and you can reach a certain depth with someone just from the first encounters. You don't need to meet them
No,
for a month sometimes, and this happens usually throughout the podcast episode. But I don't have a set of criteria in a way that I go
So I
around.
can't ask you why me.
Why you? I don't have a straight answer to that, but when I
I'm joking.
no, but I'm going to give you an honest answer. I'm that kind of person. No, I think when Aaron introduced me to you, I think and I did speak about you with Aaron as well.
Okay.
Just so. I think
Hopefully all good things.
Yes, for sure. Otherwise, he wouldn't be here. So that's a testament to it.
Yes.
But I think you were someone that I can have a good conversation with and like perhaps collaborate with as well. So that was the reason.
No, and I'm glad you invited me. I'm enjoying it so far. I see what questions come out.
No, the next one is for you.
Okay.
So here we go. So is there a mentality difference between? So, is there a mentality difference you see with different generations, and what traits are difficult to find nowadays? I'm assuming this is work related.
Related. So, is there a?
So I'll read it again. Is there a mentality difference you see with different generations, and what traits are difficult to find nowadays? So I think it's two questions.
Yeah. So let's start with the mentality.
Yeah.
Definitely there is, and it's not because I think they want to be different or people. I think that culture is or the way things are happening. I think we touched on it earlier. Let's say the younger generations want everything yesterday, and they're not patient, and they will not take the time to master something, and that's where we see at work that someone comes into a job and not turn up the next day, or comes into a job and after 2 weeks, this is too difficult for me, or I didn't realize I was going to get so busy. So there is that kind of mentality. When and I compare myself every time I change job. My mom was like, don't do it. You're good where you are. You know where you are. You're safe. You don't know where you're going. So that was another generation, and probably when my children start working, it's going to be completely different. There's something like nowadays which I suggest to everyone: if you have the opportunity to go to the office and don't work from home. But I'm sure we're already in it. We'll come to a much more advanced position and different era that no one will leave their home, and then they'll just work from sitting in their bed. I did it. I worked from home. Now that I went into hospitality and you need to be there, I will not change being there than in the office, because than at home. Because
I would prefer staying at the office. At home, I couldn't find my rhythm, to be honest.
At home you end up working a bit more because you never switch off, because you have everything there with you. But then ultimately, we are human beings and we're not robots. We're meant to be with people. We're meant to go out, and so that is and I see the mentality now, especially now, let's say recruiting in hospitality, and someone will say, I want a hybrid work setup, or I want to work from home as much as possible. And you don't get it from the older generation. It's mostly the younger generation. So I don't know. Hopefully I answered the question.
I think
the second part was...
The second one was what traits are difficult to find nowadays?
Traits. Again, I think if we're looking at the manual jobs, or the jobs that require
skilled labor,
the jobs that require being away from a computer nowadays are difficult to find.
How about personality-wise?
Personality-wise. So not the skills in terms.
To me, traits are characteristics. Yes, okay. To me, at least that's what I'm understanding.
Sense of humor, I think it's getting lost completely. The thing that you can't say something to someone and they'll keep looking at you like, what did you say? So that we're losing completely.
I never thought of that. So I think
no, and I think that's the one that strikes me the most. and I think emotional intelligence. I think.
Did we ever have it? I know I just said being the devil's advocate
I
here.
think there were times where we had it a bit more.
All right.
I think nowadays, with being such a fast-paced environment, and everything will do because tomorrow we might find another job, or we might can stop working and sit at home for 2 months, and my parents will give you money, whatever. So I think that the part of people being emotionally intelligent to any situation, to something that you can have a conversation. I think nowadays it's being slightly lost. So I think those are the two, which are difficult to find, and also difficult to spot in let's say in an interview setup as well. As in, it's funny sometimes. I like when I talk sense of humor. I walk into an interview and I understand that the person on the other side of the table or is a bit tensed, and I'm looking for a job. But if I say a joke, or maybe my jokes are not good, but if I say one, if I say two, and this person's
They're not getting the message.
I find that how is this person going to be in a team setting? Again, we don't work behind a computer and not speak to anyone. You need to be able to converse. You need to be able to, yes, say a joke every now and then, because life is not just about being serious. And I think we're losing that a little bit. And it's probably coming also from being such culturally diverse as well. So, as in, we also need to learn to be more accepting of different cultures and different ways of joking, or different ways of having a conversation. But I think yes, and we need to find something to grow this a bit more, and that's your space. You like growth, so.
On that note, I think the trait that I think, at least I find most difficult to find, besides the place of work, it's the ability to self-reflect and to have an element of introspection. So you asking the right questions to us, yes. Why did I do that? Why I behave differently in this person's presence? How do I see myself behaving in this situation?
And that boils down again to everything being so fast-paced.
Yes.
As in, sometimes I get home, I eat, I play a bit with my children, you sleep. Suddenly you're back in the office. It's like you've never been at home sometimes, and because everything is so fast-paced. But no, I think self-reflection is something I don't do enough. So even myself, but I think it is also very important.
I think so too. Did you used to self-reflect in the past?
No, I don't think I was ever one of those persons. No. And it's wrong. Whenever I did it, I always found something that I could do better. But I think it needs to become a habit as well to do it. Like, I have friends of mine that write journals. On a Saturday, they spend the first hour of their Saturday at a coffee shop looking at the previous week. And
I do it on a Sunday.
Okay. So it's good, and I can't say I've never tried it.
I tried it because my journal is online, so you can read it. Anyone can read it.
Okay.
So I sit down on a Sunday and reflect on the previous week. So, and I published online. I started December 2022, so it was almost 2 years. No, 2 years, but 2 years, 1 year and a half. But anyway. I started because I wanted to practice what I preach in a way. So because if when I give workshops, for example, or when I give training, I want to say that, listen, I've tried this. This is what I've learned from this. I see value in that, because if I receive training from someone who have been through a particular situation, it can be a model or a framework that listen, I've used this. the four quadrants, for example, of productivity. I've used this is what I've learned. I use a to-do list, for example. I use that. This is what I've learned. I see value in that. So let me, and I ask myself, let me give journaling a shot. And you do get out of it. To me, the most important aspect that I get out of journaling is that you appreciate how many things happened for you during that week.
Definitely.
You'd be amazed. Because life goes in so fast. You might remember, and literally, I write on this screen, and I have a screen here with my calendar. And I go day by day,
by
say,
day what
yeah,
you've done.
on Monday I did that. I did had that conversation, for example, and I'm usually amazed at what.
And it's also good to do it in a way to really summarize what you've done. Sometimes you are in a meeting, you discuss something, and then the day is so fast and the week is so fast that then you say, I forgot I had to do that, or I agreed to call that person. It happens to me. You try and keep so much on your brains that if you don't then sit down and reflect and put it sometimes on paper or scribble it, so no, I might give it a try. I'll see it. Maybe not public, but
not maybe.
Maybe not public.
And there are different ways of how you can journey. You can take a photo every day. You can take a photo every week. And you write something about it. There are different ways of how you can journal.
No, but definitely self-reflection is good. Again, and it's good because I know who does it, and it's good because the few times I've tried it, I managed to get an outcome out of it. I think you need to make it a habit, but you need to make it a habit of saying, I'm going to sit down for half an hour and think about my day, think about...
To me, it doesn't happen that way. So I'm not sure if it works for you, but to me, I can't sit down and okay, listen, I'll block half an hour for self-reflection. It will not come. Okay. It's like having an artist telling that person to draw something.
Exactly.
You need it has to come to you. So sometimes it happens while I'm driving, I'm thinking of something. Sometimes I'm not. You should drive safely, but it happens to everyone, I think. Sometimes it happens while you're busy doing something, and then a thought comes in, and then you stop to ponder. For example, sometimes it happens when you're near the sea. Sometimes it happens when you're in a group of friends. Sometimes it happens when you're in a noisy environment, but it comes to you.
It comes to you, yes.
So it's not something
that's where I get my ideas. So I'm like that on the other side.
Okay.
So if I can be anywhere and get an idea and say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to try this, but not this self-reflection. But the ideas do come in strange ways and in strange places. Like say, how can I do that? Okay, maybe I do it this way, and sometimes it works. No.
Speaking of self-reflection, I'm going to summon the fishbowl. So, and it will be surely a self-reflection related question. So I'm going to ask you to select one of these papers.
Let's see how lucky I am.
Read it out loud. Unfortunately, it's not a cruise or anything like that.
Do I win anything?
Unfortunately, not yet.
We need to get them sponsors.
Yes. Please.
It's like you prepared this.
No, I did prepare this.
But it's like you prepared the previous conversation. What role does self-reflection play in your personal development?
I'm going to give you a free pass. You can pick something.
I might answer this later, but let's see.
Because we did go over it.
Exactly. But I think I need to do more of it. So that's going to be my takeaway from this podcast.
Perfect.
Self-reflect. What's the most rewarding aspect of your personal growth journey so far? Very interesting. And I think, and it's quite strange, I think the most rewarding aspect of growth was leaving Malta when I was 18. And I mean, there's many reasons why, but just the ability. Probably nowadays it's something common that people do this, but the ability for me at the age of 18 to decide, listen, I want to move, I want to leave home, where culture is normally you only leave home when you're getting married. I think that gave me something that no other university, no other course could give me, because I was able to throw myself out in in central London, where I knew no one, I knew nothing, leaving home where my mum did everything for me.
It was quite the bold move. I mean,
And then I said, if I don't do it now, when? You know, I mean, I wish I can do it tomorrow, but now I need to think to buy a house, which school will my children go to, what will my wife do if we move there? Will she find a job? Can she work? At that time, I think it was something which I, till today, um, I think is what got me where I am today. I mean, this is my perception, but I went through it. Probably if I stayed in Malta and probably still working at the bank and not as happy as I am today, but probably if I stayed in Malta, I would have remained in the bank and I grew there, probably did a few different roles, and probably last week would have been made redundant because the call center I used to work in now closed in Malta. So
you'll still be on the lookout now.
exactly.
With the hopes of being happier.
Exactly. But I think it was rewarding because I've worked, and I mean, I'm not bluffing or anything, but I've worked hard because I had the possibility to do so, because I went there, I knew no one, didn't have friends, so I invested a lot of time in staying at work and learning and whatever. And I mean, at the age of 19, 20, I was managing one of the biggest branches in central London, having 40 people reporting to me, which if I stayed in Malta, for sure, I wouldn't have achieved it at that age. I even tried to return back, but they said you need to start back from scratch. I don't know. Hopefully the HR manager that saw me at that time will see this. And then, besides that, it gave me self-growth as well, because obviously having to
Definitely.
find your own place to rent, cook for yourself, find your own clothes, manage your own finances.
So you can do chores.
I can do it when there is the need to do it. And I didn't do it that well. I mean, I still remember my biggest thing was like biggest rewards to myself, taking my shirts to a laundry to get them washed and ironed at the time. Now I'm lucky enough to have a laundry at work, and they had it done for me as well. But
so you still got out of it.
I still got out of it. But no, I think, and then maybe a message to whoever will listen to this is, don't be scared to make the bold move if you want to grow in your career. And again, I mean, even it doesn't mean you need to leave Malta, but don't be scared to apply for the job which you are not qualified for. Don't be scared to make the next move, even if you don't have the experience. I mean, the first person that gave me an opportunity in HR gave me the opportunity in HR without me ever working in HR. The first person to give me an HR manager position gave me an HR manager position without ever managing people. So I think, but I only got that opportunity because I said, oh, there's a nice job, I'll apply for it, even if I don't have stuff all the things they're asking for. You know, we have some recruiters here in the room, and they ask for like 10 things, preferably this, you need to qualify in this. Yes, it's good, but if you really believe you can get it, or if you believe you can do it, or at least get the opportunity for an interview to meet the recruiter, but just throw yourself in. I mean, there's no loss in throwing yourself in and make a bold decision to change something. But do it whilst you still have, the opportunity to do it. As in, life takes us into different responsibilities. Maybe now I will not think of doing something because I have the responsibility of my family, and I know that if I do something and maybe screw up, I am responsible for, providing for my family. As in, my wife works as well, but
but it gives you that sense of responsibility.
Responsibility that you will not do it. As in, not that I would ever do it now, but maybe if I wanted to do bungee jumping, I would have done it before I had kids. But I would never do it anyway. Just to be clear, but just to give you the example that do something risky when you have the time to do something risky.
Or do it with your kids now.
Or do it with my
come
kids.
on.
Well, if you tell my daughter,
Right,
she'll,
sure.
she'll do it over and over again, for sure. For sure.
Matthew, thank you for being here. It has been a very good discussion.
It's gone by really quick. hasn't it?
I'm not sure how long
I
is
don't
this is this. I think
I
it's
can
been
go for another few hours if you want.
we can.
We can.
I'm sure we'll find something to say.
No more questions?
Not yet, I believe. Seems like you enjoy time, which I'm glad.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
very glad
yes.
you did.
I really enjoyed it. No, honestly, as in this morning, and I sent Daniel a message. I was like, I'm really excited. As in excited in a not in a nice way, yes, but excited, worried. As in I don't know what to find. I've never sat with a microphone in front of me.
And
with
I didn't
cameras
give
and
you so
everything.
much information either.
No, and I
because
tried last week. I said, I was like, what will you ask me? He's like, I don't normally prepare. You told me, or
Yes.
said-
How did you find the? I don't have any agenda, so we just went with the flow.
No, I think I honestly I really enjoyed it, and I think well done to you for doing this because I mean for people who follow you, I think you're giving them different perspectives of and you're meeting people from different walks of life. So it's
Yeah.
not just one agenda, one sort of topic. No, it's interesting. No, keep it up. And, hopefully, I can come on another one sometime soon because I really enjoyed it.
And
Maybe we should do a three-way one.
a round table. I'm equipped to do it.
You're equipped to do it.
I'm equipped
Okay.
to do it.
Good. I'm in for that. I need to be on your first round table. That's a deal.
Deal.
Perfect.
And it's an open invitation if you want to do that 1 hour catch up. I'm all for it because you mentioned that you wanted to do more self-reflection.
Yes,
So-
I'm gonna try and do it. Actually, I'm gonna go read yours first to see.
The journal?
the journal.
For sure. Yes.
Just to see, what I should be reflecting about.
Sure, I'll give you the link.
Perfect. No, thank you
Matt,
for having
thanks so
me.
much.
Thank you very much.